6:30. And for the final results, join us back.
Cavan, Mayo and East Munster. Met Éireann has forecast further snow in parts of Leinster tonight, while temperatures could fall below -10 degrees in the west and northwest.
There were picture-perfect scenes all over the country today. Heavy snowfall left most of Leinster and the Midlands covered in a white blanket, making icy roads even worse. Heavier snow is forecast for tomorrow, but grit may be a problem.
If there are these anticipated snowfalls in conjunction with icy conditions, it will require high application rates of salt by local authorities to keep the national routes open. So that's where the pressure point really kicks in.
A delivery of rock salt arrived in Foynes Port today, and another 22 tonnes is due. Nevertheless, local authorities are being urged to share their supplies.
We have to ensure that we actually get coordination now between all of the local authorities. That is happening, it's working very well. The NRA have been tasked with sourcing more salt. They've been successful in that. We've had an extra shipment and indeed we continue to get supplies from Carrickfergus. We've also ensured that we're using alternative substances as well.
Householders and businesses have been urged to do their bit too by clearing paths, which according to the Minister for the Environment will in no way make them liable for slips or falls. Frozen pipes were causing problems for people in Gort in Galway, where water was delivered by the fire service. Residents in Clare, Sligo, Cavan and Dundalk were having similar problems. The Army was deployed in Leitrim and Meath to clear pathways. 450 personnel are on standby around the country, and in the next 48 hours they could be needed.
We're looking at 5 to 10 centimetres of snow at the worst in the east coast. Most places will be more like 3 to 5 centimetres, and that will be a significant extra burden on those clearing roads. It'll be a significant extra problem, of course, for people trying to get to work on Monday morning.
Weather temperatures tonight are expected to fall as low as -10 degrees. Sharon Tobin, RTE News.
Passengers at Dublin Airport are currently experiencing average delays of an hour on outbound flights. Up to 70 flights were disrupted at the airport this morning when services were suspended following heavy snowfalls. Arrivals and departures are continuing at Cork, Shannon and Knock airports.
Grounded for up to 4 hours as snowplows tried to remove snow and ice from the runways at Dublin Airport. Ryanair planes also ran into difficulties de-icing planes, which compounded the problem. Inside, thousands queued for hours as over 70 flights were cancelled and others experienced long delays.
We were told at 10 o'clock we could be in half an hour, 11 o'clock another half an hour, 1 o'clock cancelled.
We had 30 inches of snow December 19th and hardly anything. I mean, things were still going. In a day we had the airports up and running, so it's frustrating.
I'm stuck in this queue here now 4 hours, but sure, you know, these things happen, you know.
I found the Irish people to be very, very nice. I just wish they more prepared for the snow, I guess.
Flights resumed in the afternoon, but those on cancelled journeys were either transferred onto other flights or rebooked on departures over the coming days.
Flights into and out of Dublin Airport have now resumed, but with more snow promised in the coming days, there's likely to be long delays, cancellations and disruption for thousands of passengers.
Well, the advice to passengers would be to contact their airline before heading to the airport. So either contact their airline directly, check their airline websites. Also, they could check the Dublin Airport website, that's www.dublinairport.com, and obviously keep in touch with the radio bulletins. We're updating the media consistently and constantly.
Elsewhere, bus Éireann services between Dublin and Limerick were cancelled with minor delays in the east of the country. Éireann Road Éireann and Dublin bus services operated as normal, and the AA warned motorists to avoid driving on inclines and on higher ground. Adrian Lydon, RTE News.
Volunteers from Age Action and the St Vincent de Paul Society have teamed up to contact older people who are housebound by the freezing conditions and who may be running out of food, fuel and medical supplies. Dublin's Simon community says an unprecedented level of cooperation between agencies is keeping most homeless people out of the cold.
Over 150 people have contacted Age Action's emergency helpline since it started yesterday. Some saying they have not left their home for weeks.
Age Action, good afternoon. If you've had no visitors for the last 2 to 3 weeks, you can't get out. Your supplies of food, fuel, if you're using solid fuel, and medication is running out. And so there's an urgent need for someone to get to you. And so that's what we're appealing to people. Get in, make contact today with an older person.
The silver lining in this recent cloud of bad weather has been the public's response to appeals for help. Many people, including teachers now off until next Thursday, have contacted Age Action offering their services. And for agencies dealing with the homeless, cooperation is at an all-time high.
Local authorities working with the Homeless Agency and the Dublin Simon community are keeping shelters open all day or for extended hours to keep homeless people off our freezing streets.
To some extent, it's an ill wind, you know. We have put lives before protocols, and it's an ill wind that doesn't do somebody. We have more homeless people off the street than we've ever had with the cooperation of all these agencies working together. It's astounding work's being done, and so far, thankfully, we've had no real casualties.
So it seems, as the temperatures drop, public spirit is on the rise. Anne-Marie Smith, RTE News.
And the following helplines are available for the elderly affected by the weather. Age Action can be contacted at 01 475 6989. Winter na Tíre on 086 6000 751 and Alone at 01 679 1032. And our environment correspondent Paul Cunningham joins us now, hatless, in studio. Paul, the Met Éireann have been warning about this severe weather event which is due tomorrow. What's the latest on that tonight?
Well, the latest is that it's coming. I think what most people are probably interested in is what's going to happen after it hits. Excuse me, and the government is trying to reassure people that they have a plan and that wherever the snow hits, they're going to have snow ploughs on the ground, that they're going to have gritters with blades which will be able to cut. They're going to ensure that the grit is going to be prioritised and going to the special areas. But the government has set itself a priority, which is to have the country moving on Monday, and that's going to be the big test. Do they actually do all the things they say they're going to do, and does it actually function? For some, of course, given what's happened over the past 2 weeks, they've already made up their minds and they feel the government hasn't done enough. But the government's own test is Monday morning. We'll know then.
And what about looking forward into the middle of next week, say towards the end of next week? Any sign of a thaw?
Well, according to Met Éireann, there is a sort of glimmer of hope. They feel that around Saturday the thaw is going to come, and that's critical. It's around a 4-degree temperature increase. Once you have at around 4 degrees or above, that's 4 degrees Celsius, there is a chance of a thaw. But clearly what we've heard from Met Éireann also is that there's been such a prolonged freeze that the ground is frozen by, while you have the surface, it's actually frozen down about a foot. And on that basis, it's going to take 2 or 3 days to actually warm up and for the ice to clear. I think there's one other thing which is going to happen. Noel Dempsey, the Minister for Transport, was due to arrive back into the country today. His flight was cancelled, but his spokesperson said he'll be back tomorrow, so he'll also be assisting in the clean-up as well.
OK, Paul Cunningham, thank you for that. Snow and freezing weather have been causing travel chaos for thousands across Europe. Air, rail and road transport was disrupted in Britain, France and Germany.
The bitter conditions have been hitting Europe too. In Britain, the Met Office says up to 20 centimetres of snow could fall over the next 24 hours, with the southeast hardest hit. The British government says supplies of gas for heating will not run out, although about 100 industrial customers have been ordered to cut back usage. Eurostar services between Britain and France have been affected, with only around 2/3 of trains running. British Airways cancelled 50 flights from London's Heathrow today, and delays are expected at other airports, while low-budget airline EasyJet also cancelled some flights. In Frankfurt, the situation was worse, as more than 200 flights were cancelled at Europe's third largest airport. The German government has said all non-essential travel should be avoided and is advising people to stock up on essential supplies to last up to 4 days. In Poland, where nearly 140 people have frozen to death in the past few weeks, the authorities say about 25,000 homes are without electricity in the south, as power lines were snapped by heavy branches felled in the snow. And the situation isn't much better in France, where the National Weather Service placed 29 of the country's regions on a state of alert because of heavy snowfalls and icy roads. Kate Egan, RTE News.
In other news, a murder investigation is underway after a 29-year-old man was found shot dead in a ditch near Dublin Airport in an apparent gangland attack. It's believed the victim, who was the leader of a drugs gang, was abducted 2 days ago.
The bloodstains in the snow led to this afternoon's grim discovery, the first gangland murder of 2010, but it's one which has its origins in an ongoing drugs feud in Dublin. The body of the 29-year-old man was found by a passer-by lying partially submerged underwater in a ditch on Dunbro Lane in Ballymun at around 2 o'clock this afternoon. He'd been shot a number of times. His family reported him missing 2 days ago. The victim was well known to the Gardaí for his involvement in organised crime and was a target of local and national drug units and the Criminal Assets Bureau. The father of two was known as the leader of a drugs gang on the north side of Dublin, and Gardaí seized substantial quantities of cocaine and cannabis from his gang. The Criminal Assets Bureau also seized property and cash from him and served him with a tax assessment for over €250,000. He survived a hit and run and a previous attempt on his life after he was shot a number of times while he sat in his car on the Malahide Road. He has a number of previous convictions and had only been released from prison last November. Detectives believe the victim was abducted, shot at least 4 times before his body was dumped in a ditch in the freezing cold in this lane here at the back of Dublin Airport. The 29-year-old man knew that his life was in danger. He's the third victim of this ongoing drugs feud in less than a year. Paul Reynolds, RTE News, Dunbro Lane, Dublin.
Iris Robinson is to step down immediately from her positions at Westminster, the Northern Ireland Assembly and Castlereagh Borough Council. Her husband Peter, the Northern Ireland First Minister, says he wants to clear his name and remain in public office. But the Northern Ireland Secretary said today the controversy over the Robinsons couldn't be allowed to damage the peace process.
The footage is from the DUP's official farewell to Ian Paisley in May 2008. The party now says Iris Robinson will immediately leave all her public positions. Quite apart from her health issues, her behaviour in her public role made that inevitable. Her husband wants to stay on as First Minister and DUP leader and feels he has done no wrong. The party, with its mix of fundamentalists and modernists, is testing the public mood this weekend. But one man close to former leader Ian Paisley says Peter Robinson should step aside temporarily.
I think it would be stepping down for the right reason. The reason to defend his own character and also to attend to private matters.
The marriage the two governments are worried about is the relationship between Sinn Féin and the DUP. With the DUP in crisis, the devolution of justice and policing remains stalled. Sinn Féin will see no point in continuing with power sharing if that stalemate continues. The British and Irish governments recognise the seriousness of the situation.
Whatever difficulties there may be for any individual or a political party to deal with at the moment, I think there's a huge responsibility on everybody to ensure that the political process and the peace process are not jeopardised.
In this place there are not clear divisions between politics and religion. God and Scripture are regularly called upon to justify a deed or decry an opponent. Within that Northern Ireland mindset, over the next week, Peter Robinson will be judged. And there's only one question. In terms of his public role and responsibilities, do his actions, or lack of them, merit the end of his political career? Tommy Gorman, RTE News, Belfast.
Still in the north, a PSNI officer remains in a critical but stable condition in hospital after he was injured in a bomb attack in County Antrim yesterday morning. The 33-year-old was wounded when a device planted under his car exploded while he was travelling to work. The constable was an Irish speaker and a member of the GAA. The attack is being blamed on dissident Republicans. A Pakistan television station has shown what it says is a video of a Jordanian double agent who killed 7 CIA agents in Afghanistan sitting with the Pakistani Taliban chief before the attack. The private television channel AAJ showed a video of the bomber, seen here on the right, speaking in English but barely audible. The station also reported that he shared all secrets of Jordanian and US intelligence with militants. If authentic, commentators say the video points to huge intelligence failures for the US and Jordan. The charity Voluntary Service Overseas has launched an urgent recruitment drive to encourage teachers, especially primary school teachers, to work as volunteers in developing countries. VSO says while applications to volunteer are up because of the recession, the amount of inquiries from teachers has collapsed.
These days, Mairead Finucane is back in her classroom in Dublin, teaching 3rd class. But a year ago, and a different world away, she was training teachers to teach local children in Cambodia.
We used to run training courses for the teachers because some of them haven't got any training at all. And they hadn't got any idea of what sort of things you could use with the children to help them with their maths or to help them with their phonics or anything. So we showed them how to make, say for the little ones, number charts for the wall and phonic charts. And for the older ones then, they made jigsaw puzzles and they made questionnaires.
It's estimated that one Irish teacher volunteering for 2 years with VSO will train enough teachers to educate 40,000 children. Cambodia is just one of the countries where Irish teachers are in particularly high demand because of their expertise.
I think for anybody who wants a change, for 2 years, the 2 years will fly, and you do get an awful lot of satisfaction from it. It was fantastic. You make great friends when you're over there. You see another country, and then you're working with people who really appreciate what you're doing.
However, VSO says there's been a big drop in the number of primary school teachers coming forward because of fears about job security and entitlements.
Teachers take a career break overseas. You have your pension, your PRSI covered by the government. It's a scheme. You also have your job guaranteed when you return because it's a career break scheme, and you have your seniority and increments already guaranteed as well while you're overseas.
The organisation says that education is its biggest programme, and every single volunteer can make a difference to changing the world just a little bit. Cathy Donaghy, RTE News.
Now, despite the weather, some sporting events did go ahead today, and with the details, here's Joe.
Thanks, Eileen. Just a few, very few, because I'm afraid the winter weather continues to decimate sports fixtures. Maybe it was fitting then that both Manchester United and Arsenal should slip up in the only 2 Premier League games that actually went ahead today. Points were shared against Birmingham and Everton, respectively.
Top of the Premier League tonight after salvaging a controversial draw against Birmingham. Earlier, Arsene Wenger's side, who came into today's... A moment of brilliance from Tim Cahill opened up Arsenal's defence in the second half. Stephen Pienaar presented with a chance to put the Merseysiders ahead again.
Oh, that's a super ball by Tim Cahill. He absolutely weighted it perfectly. A great chance for Pienaar. Stephen Pienaar! It's there!
The home side regrouped and embarked on a late rally, Rosicki ensuring a share of the spoils for the Gunners. Everton denied a first league win in 14 attempts at Arsenal. 2-2, the final score. Eamon Horan, RTE News.
Well, elsewhere in soccer news tonight, Togo's national team is reportedly to pull out of the African Nations Cup. That follows the attack on the team bus, which killed 3 people. The country's territorial administration minister, Pascal Bajona, said this evening that the Togolese government had decided to call back the team, saying it could not continue with what was a dramatic situation. 2 members of the delegation are said to have died, as well as reportedly the driver of the coach, that after Friday's attack in the Cabinda region of Angola. Thomas Aiken and Trevor Fisher Jr. share the lead after round 3 of the Africa Open on 16 under par. Darren Clarke is the best of the Irish. He shot a 2 under par round of 71 to enter the final day's play on 9 under for the tournament. That's 7 off the leading duo. Michael Hoey is on 7 under par. Well, looking ahead, the ongoing cold snap will cause massive headaches for fixture coordinators as well as players and coaches in all disciplines who've had their seasons interrupted. Now, over the past couple of weeks, one of Ireland's most promising cross-country athletes has been readjusting his intensive training programme to suit the alpine-like conditions.
When Mark Keneally upset the odds to finish 8th at the European Cross Country Championships, he qualified for a Sports Council grant to help fund his elite training regime. 4 weeks later, that regime has seen some innovative changes.
I mean, as long as I'm running, I'm keeping reasonably fit. I'm just not able to really train as hard as I'd like, so that I'm improving. I mean, I'm doing a bit of supplemental stuff in the gym, and I am getting out from my usual volume. But I ordered a pair of something called Yak Tracks yesterday, which are basically chains that you clip onto your shoes to allow you to get a bit of grip. But no, it's been difficult.
For elite athletes like Mark, the biggest problem about the current conditions is the danger of falling behind in a training programme. But mere mortals with New Year's resolutions involving more exercise also need to be keenly aware of the dangerous conditions underfoot.
I think it's far safer to try and run in a grassy area with maybe football boots or spikes on you, that you have some kind of a purchase on the ground, so the risk of slipping is a lot less. Probably the best advice at the moment would be to try and substitute another form of exercise for running at this stage. Swimming, exercise bikes in gyms, or any kind of upper limb activity such as boxing exercises, which is a very intense cardiovascular exercise without the risk of getting injured.
I was looking on the internet last night for last minute deals, but no, I mean I needed to finish fairly quickly, because I need to get back to fairly intense training if I can. I wouldn't be able to go longer than another couple of weeks with this sort of weather.
Mark's next target is a top 6 finish in the 10,000 metres at the European Track Championships in July, but for now he and his contemporaries would settle for a thaw. Ivani Cullen, RTE News, Maynooth, County Kildare.
So would his rugby counterparts, because in case you haven't heard, a new date has to be found for the Magners League game between Munster and the Scarlets. The game was due to be played tomorrow, but like so much else, it was postponed today as the pitch at Musgrave Park is unplayable. That's the sport for now, though. Back to you, Ali.
Thanks, Joe. And the main news once again, as the country remains gripped by ice and snow, road conditions are expected to deteriorate this evening and tonight. Grit supplies are said to be under severe pressure. Motorists are being urged to avoid unnecessary journeys. And we leave you tonight with some pictures of the big freeze sent in by our viewers. Good night.
The good weather might be a while away, but a more shapely you could be closer to hand with Avonmore Slimline Milk.
Good evening. Well, the snow showers and snow will continue over the next 24 hours or so. Amounts somewhere between 5 and 10 centimetres, and temperatures will continue to stay low as well, as severe frost tonight and low daytime temperatures tomorrow. But then temperatures will start to rise, or will get less cold, I should say, tomorrow night. The frost won't be as severe, but it'll be the end of the week before we see a significant rise in temperatures, and by that I mean temperatures going above 4 degrees, because that's what we need really to melt the ice. Now, there's a kind of a sameness to these charts. We have high pressure to the over Scandinavia. The northeasterly winds have brought the showers across Britain and then over the Irish Sea through Ireland through the day, and that's going to continue tonight. I think the snow showers tonight they'll be well scattered, and most of them will be just along the Leinster coast, and then probably start that way tomorrow, fairly dry in most places, and then a spell of maybe more prolonged snow and increasing intensity in the showers through the middle of tomorrow, and this frontal event then probably continue on into tomorrow night. So tonight, the showers here along the east coast, but generally speaking, most places fairly dry but rather clear, and another cold night. Temperatures we got to minus 11 last night. We'll get somewhere down towards those values in the coldest parts of the country. Maybe not just as low, the record breaking, but another exceptionally low temperatures again during tonight as the winds stay northeasterly in direction. So tomorrow then, just the showers beginning here along the east coast, and then fairly dry elsewhere, and then an increase in intensity through the day, with the showers penetrating inland, becoming widespread across the country, and more widespread snow, I think, through the second half of tomorrow. Right everywhere, there'll be some breaks in it. We're looking at warnings, the current warnings, 5 to 10 centimetres, somewhere in that amount. And if you want to keep advised on the state of the warnings, what we think, look at the website www.met.ie. And then temperatures tomorrow, still very low during daytime. It'll be tomorrow night, I think, before we begin to a slight rise in temperatures, but around freezing or so, still a hard frost, and the winds northeasterly again during tomorrow. Well, that's it from me. A very good night to you.